Ile Francais, he's a machine. Hermes Allen, what do you do with him? And what did you make of the run? Because it's not a bad run. And he was super strong on the market. Ile Francais is in another league to him, though. Is he a horse that has a chance of winning at the Cheltenham Festival? Or did I get him spectacularly wrong to the point that I now have to stay with him for Cheltenham and hope that he's as good as I thought going in?
I really liked him, to be honest. I didn't think he lost a whole lot. Like, he's got beaten by an absolute...
Good man, George!
And my one with him at Newbury was he was a bit too exuberant and a bit too low at his fences. And I worried when a horse took him on, he was going to hit one halfway up and come down. And he got a little low at a couple of those fences at Kempton. And you could argue, well, he shouldn't have got away with it. But the fences are softer these days. It is what it is. You get away with getting as low as he got a couple of them. I was pleased with him. I thought, as a second run over fences, stepping up into a grade 1, if he hadn't been trying to go with Ile Francais, take Ile Francais out of that race and let him ride his own race, he'd have won as far as he wanted. The only reason anything got anywhere near him was because he busted himself trying to go with Ile Francais, which he's not turning up to Cheltenham. So it's an irrelevance, really, isn't it? Whether he's going to be quite at the level, I don't know. What's the market looking like for the Brown advisory? Well, he's got to beat Grange Fair West, isn't he? Which might not be doable, but...
And his stable companion, Stay Away Faye.
Yeah, if I had a choice of owning one of them, I'd have Hermes Allen over Stay Away Faye.
So would I. And I like Stay Away Faye, but I think Hermes Allen has way more scope, way more potential to just do more damage at the top level. I can't get away from the fact that Stay Away Faye is a very, very good horse, but Giovinco's beaten an awful long way. He hasn't done anything for the form, and he just is a dour stayer, whereas Hermes Allen does have a turn of foot.
I think Giovinco could have beat him the last day if it wasn't for the loose horse, and he could have just had one run at him after the last. Stay Away phase in a horse in these small field tactical races, you could catch him flat-footed after the last. What you don't want to do is what happened to him, where he's had to try and get in front of the loose horse to stay out of trouble, and he's got in a battle with Stay Away Faye a long way out, because you're never going to win that battle. He's got bottomless stamina. But let's say in these small field tactical races, you could do him for speed after the last. And Giovinco, I think, was planning on doing that. Unfortunately, had to go to plan B to not get taken out of it by the loose horse. But Stay Away Faye will be better at Cheltenham, though. Running off a decent gallop, he will be better. But, yeah, I'd rather have Hermes Allen. I think he's just classier. Although he's on his second wind up, isn't he? But
Is Stay Away Faye qualified for the National Chase, or is he too good because he's a Grade 1 hurdler?
Paul Nicholls won't go there with him, will he?
No, he won't. It's kind of an academic point to make, but he'd be a stone cold solid moral in the National Chase. He would murder them there.
But it's like an admission that they're not as classy as you thought they were running them in the National Chase nowadays, isn't it? And
it is. Well, that's why Factor File was never going to go for the National Chase, because you're not going novice chasing with him unless you think he's very, very, very good, and it appears he is. But before we get to Factor File, we should be talking, Dennis, about this magnificent performance from Gaelic Warrior, how exciting he is. But we can't talk about the race without first of all talking about Mullins Gate. Did we do a graphic? Did we do a special sound effect for it? No? Oh, to be fair, I was drinking all last night, so yeah, probably wasn't actually focused on the production of this show at all. Look, I like Patrick. I like Danny. This wasn't good, but I'm going to take a wild guess here, Dennis, and we haven't talked about this off air. I would imagine at some point in your career, maybe a few times, you would have bollocked an opposing jockey, or an opposing jockey bollocked you. It's just that kind of stuff would happen in the weighing room, not on the track.
Well, look, therein where lies the problem, Emmet, but I've heard some strange stuff now being chunked out the last few days about this, and really good, a really good time for both Patrick and Danny, two very good riders. I've been in that position where the pressure is immense, and I would have visionized how my race is going to go and exactly how it's going to go, and Patrick had it down to a T. And all he said was, everyone knowing, but just reminded Danny listen, there is going to be a gap because there is no running rail from the turn in Limerick to the second last. There's going to be a gap. Don't come there. He didn't. He didn't say he because he jumps right. He just said don't go there because he should know he jumps right. So in one sense, Patrick is being a genius because he's worked out the race and he's essentially telling his stablemate, "Don't be stupid now and thinking you can go there because I'm going to mow you out of it because I'm on Gaelic Warrior and it's the first time I'm going to leave him two horses off the inside, so he will jump a bit right. So don't go there because I'll knock you down." So essentially, that's what he's after doing. I would have done that myself. Like I would say, I like don't for a second think like you can go there because Gaelic Warrior will mow you down. Like he will mow you down. And usually, when there's an island fence with no inside railing and no outside railing, and you are making the running down the inner the whole way, you always tend to keep one off the wing anyway, so that you don't give your horse an option, especially if you're making the running, an option to run out. So it's vital that you do stay one off the rail. Don't go too tight down the inside. So that's essentially what Patrick was doing. Um, if Danny was riding for Gordon Elliott, he wouldn't have opened his mouth to him. But the fact he was riding for Willie Mullins, he was just warning him, like. So he was actually doing Danny a favour because he knew the way the race was going to work out. And he told Danny, there will be a gap there, but like surely you're clever enough to know that you can't go there on
And
Gaelic
just
Warrior.
on
Like and
leaving the gap,
with
Dennis, just on leaving the gap in the first place, I'm imagining one of the reasons he's doing that is because Gaelic Warrior is going to jump out to the right. He doesn't want him collapsing over the rails. He doesn't want to end up on the bonnet of the ambulance. That's why he's leaving the gap. But he also knows that by leaving that gap, when you approach a fence, he makes reference to this in his Racing Post article. Pat Doro trying to go up the inside and getting taken out by another horse. That's what he's trying to avoid. There was some people who were trying to insinuate that he was borderline bringing the game into disrepute. That's not what Patrick Mullins was doing.
No,
and the person who
no,
wrote that, I'm pretty certain knows that. So I don't know why they would have said that at all.
listen,
That this horse goes right-handed. This is what he didn't elaborate on this properly in the racing TV interview. But Patrick's not a broadcaster. He's a jockey in the heat of the moment. This wasn't how dare Danny Mullins have the sheer gall and the audacity to try and beat me, Patrick, in an odds-on favorite of Great One. That's not what it was. It was just, don't go for a gap on a horse that's going to go right-handed. You could kill both of us.
Well, look, that's it. And look, they were both right and they were both wrong. So Patrick was right to warn him that this was going to happen, and Danny was right to ride his own race, even though, in my opinion, he was wrong to go there because he should have known the brave man that Gaelic Warrior will absolutely mow you out of it. If you're not in front of him going to the fence, Gaelic Warrior is going to take you out of it because he jumps to the right. That horse has jumped right all his life. So that's the reality there. The second thing is, then Patrick was wrong on pulling up. He laid into Danny, and well, look, Patrick will regret that.
Yeah.
Patrick will be still sweating about that. He will regret that because he'll know it looked bad. But it's the pressure. The pressure of getting beat on Facile Vega, the pressure of what nearly might have went wrong at the second last, and he just came out there and then. And that's pressure. So let's be honest here now. Like, he is an amateur riding these Grade 1 horses, albeit they're for his fatter. The pressure is immense. So you're riding for the greatest trainer of all time. So,
and he just got beaten in a long odds-on favourite in a Grade 1 earlier that week.
I'd say the pressure's higher when it's your father as well, because everyone's looking at you going,
you're way harder. Yeah, way harder. It's way harder. And you're right, George. And the reality is, the two of them were right and the two of them were wrong. So
Yeah.
Patrick was right. He visionized how the race was going to go, and he just said, "Listen, I'm going to do this. There's going to be no running rail, but I'm not going to go tight down the inner now to the second last in case he runs out. So don't go there. You know why." And Danny's like, "Sure, yeah, of course. We all know why. Sure, he jumps right. But of course, the gap came and Danny went through. So Danny's saying, I'm rode my own race. But like, if he was riding for Gordon Elliott, sure, surely someone would give out to Danny for, what were you doing going down? So where were you going in there? Like, you were always going to get knocked down. But at the same time, Danny gave the horse a very good ride to finish second. Anyway,
Yeah.
so look,
And to be
so
fair, Dennis, if Danny didn't go for the, like, I would agree with you. He shouldn't have gone for that inside rail. But at the same time, I'll contradict myself by saying he absolutely should have, because the stewards could easily have hauled him in and said, there was a gap there. You didn't go for it. I don't care that Gaelic Warrior might
but
jump
it
right-handed. You were
wasn't
going
about
well.
that. The rule states if you're going to go up through a gap on the inside, you have to be gone through. You
Yeah.
can't go and wait. You have to be gone through. So that's the reality. He wasn't gone through. So
Yeah.
He couldn't get through with Gaelic Warrior. And the reality is, if he had been an inch closer, the same thing would have happened to what happened Keith Donoghue above in Leopardstown the day before with Rachel Blackmore. So that is what's going through Patrick's head. So that is the reality. That is what happens. So he would have broadsided him. He could have impeded his own fella and could have brought down Danny's lad as well. He could have caused all sorts of. I understand. I get it. He's not bringing the game into disrepute. He's just
Yeah.
being ahead of the game. So he's actually being quite clever. So he was right in what he said, and Danny is okay, grand. Whether he's right or wrong to go there, that's his own judgment. They're two very, very, very good riders.
Yeah.
But where Patrick is wrong is he's wrong after the race. Then shouldn't have pointed the finger at Danny. It looks bad. It's a grade one. It's live on television. He's riding for his father. He's very lucky position. He's in a very lucky position. He's a lucky man. He's a high class rider, but still, that he shouldn't probably have done that. Now, we've all made mistakes, so it'll be all soon
Oh, yeah.
forgotten next week anyway. But uh, therein lies another issue. When he was interviewed after the race, he explained after the race what he was thinking and what he was doing. And then now that has led to an investigation from the IHRB into team tactics and bringing the game into disrepute. Listen, that needs to be chucked out because he isn't bringing the game into disrepute at all. He is only stating that he had the vision of the race in his head, and that is what's happened. Everyone knows Gaelic Warrior jumps to the right, and he was only preempting his stablemate. Listen, there's going to be a gap there because I'm not going tight down the inner, and I'll mow you out of it if you go there because he jumps to the right. If he was riding for any other trainer, Danny Mullins, in the race, he wouldn't have opened his mouth because he would have expected them not to go there, and if they did go there, he was going to mow them out of it because Gaelic Warrior jumps to the right. So
Yeah.
the reality is, all he was doing was preempting what was happening, what was going to happen, and that is huge intelligence. He is not bringing the game into any sort of issue. I could see exactly how it was going to happen and what the position he was in, and that's it. And unless Danny could have got through and in front of Gaelic Warrior going to the second last, is the only way you can say that he was not going to get in trouble, because you have to, if you're passing on the inside, you where a gap is minimal or very small, you have to be gone through. Like Bob Ollinger at Cheltenham yesterday, he was gone through. When the gap came, he was gone through. So no one can ever give out to you then, and that is the reality of it. And I don't see any problem with the whole riding. And I thought the two horses got great rides in the race, and they're two high class horses, by the way.
Mm.
Gaelic Warrior and Ella the
Il
French horse,
était
the grey
temps.
horse. Yeah, high class horse as well, and great performance by the two of them. And I think that the whole race shouldn't even be like. Patrick Mullins will regret what he did after the line and what he said after the race. In that he didn't keep it to himself.
Yeah.
He still believes when he goes in the wear and what he did was right in the race and everything, but where he'll feel he let himself down is with the whole finger pointing and all the rest of it. But sure, look, that's it. He'll be sweating about that, but he'll forget about it next week, and he'll learn from it too. He's still a young fella, Patrick, and he's the world.
Oh,
the world's his oyster anyway, so he's okay.
Oh, listen, he's Willie Mullins 2.0, and he is going to be the person who takes over from Willie decades from now when Willie decides he's had enough and he wants to sit on the beach in Barbados. He's an incredible horseman. He's an incredible talent.
He is.
He's going to cringe. He's going to cringe looking back on this. I think the Racing Post changed the headline. I could be wrong about this because when I was reading it, I would have been on my 5th hot whiskey at the Castlecumber Whaley race at 8 p.m. last night. But I'm sure the headline initially was, I've been told it came across as arrogant and self-entitled. Well, so be it if it does. And then they've changed that to, I overreacted, but I was angry. My take on the Gaelic Warrior controversy. Now, I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but he did write that in the article. I guess he has to back up what he did, as opposed to just hold his hands up and say, not my finest moment.
No,
we'll move on.
Listen, he's backing up. He's backing up what he did in that he told Danny not to. That's what he's backing up. Because he feels he's right there. He feels like I don't have to explain to anyone. Listen, I
would agree with him, by the way.
Right,
I think he is right.
Exactly.
While also being double standard and saying Danny was absolutely right to go for it.
Yeah, the two of them are right, but he just listen. That's it. That's race riding. That's what we do, and it's none of anyone else's business. They're both out to win, so that's all that matters. Sure, aren't they both out to win?
Just to bring in you, George, and just very briefly on this, in your riding days, were you ever intimidated by a senior rider? Because I'd be amazed if you weren't at some point. We're all adults. We can understand what goes on in the racing world. But more importantly, did you ever do anything on a track, or did one of your colleagues ever do anything on the track that results? He's already smiling. If you're listening to this on the podcast, check out the YouTube clip later, because before I've even asked the question, George has got a big grin on his face. Have you ever seen an incident where a colleague of yours was grabbed by the neck and thrown against the wall in the weighing room? Don't you do that again, but behind closed doors.
It's actually funny enough, this afternoon when I heard Dennis was going to be on the podcast, I was trying to think, have we ever ridden against each other? I was looking through a couple of old races. So I was trying to think anywhere a bit further, not north, but like Midlands sort of way where he was riding. I watched a race back from Toaster that was by far from my... Dennis wasn't in the race before he said this isn't anything. But I remember it was Tom Bellamy was practically on the rail in front of me, like half a horse width off the rail. My thing had been off the bridle nearly all of the 2.5 miles. And it just starts staying on up the hill like a steam train. I went, if I go round Bellsy, I've got to go 4 wide. I could just nip down a gap about this big. I went through it. I remember Belsy's stirrup catching on my knee, so I went round his inside. I nearly lifted him out the saddle. I've nearly bust the rail out the way on the way through. I heard him screaming at me on the way past. He was quite right. He absolutely tore into me when we came back in. I've been under the pump the whole way, 16 runners, and I finished 3rd. So I come back in, I thought, like, yeah, sorry, Belsy, but didn't finish 3rd. you were going nowhere, and you weren't getting out my way. But, yeah,
but not something that the Sky Sports racing cameras were picking up. This was all handled behind closed doors.
Oh yeah, no, that was all close. That was a busy day. That was the day Gavin Sheehan won the Stairs Hurdle on Cole Harden. I remember poor old Andrew Thornton done his knee in. Like it was a really busy day. But yeah, no, nothing like that. Look,
Andrew's knee injury wasn't your fault as well, was it?
No, it wasn't. No. I'd say 1 in 4 or 5 races when you're around at the start, someone will say to you, don't go down my inner, this jumps left or this jumps right.
Getting to the more important aspect of it, though, Gaelic Warrior has won and won very impressively. Just very briefly on him, Dennis, we've got the prospect of this horse lining up in the King George this year, later this year, taking on Ile-Francais. I feel really bad for Shishkin because that was really his chance to win the King George. I don't know how he's going to beat, at the age of 10, Ile-Francais and Gaelic Warrior, but we shall see. Maybe he'll win the Gold Cup in the meantime. Who knows? But the way I view Gaelic Warrior is he's an exceptional horse going right-handed, a very good one going left-handed. And that, for me anyway, his price for the Turners makes absolutely no appeal whatsoever, because something like Fact to File, his stable companion, won't be jumping out to the right. And I think it's going to cost him at Cheltenham.
Yeah, well, Fact to File now for me is up there in the top two most impressive performances at Christmas. I have to say, he is Gold Cup written all over him. Next year, maybe Willie's next year's Gold Cup winner, but yeah, he high class performance, top class racehorse. So he might even be better than Gaelic Warrior, to be honest. I don't know if that's the route they'll go, but who knows? It's only he's very inexperienced, to come from his bumper straight novice chasing is a big ask, but gosh, he was ultra impressive at Leopardstown. Foot perfect. I'd say he's a serious animal. Gaelic Warrior was so impressive, and I mean, how he got beat is very simple in the Fred Winter that year is because he jumped out to the right, and at the year Aramax beat him. So, look, he's going to run in Cheltenham because it's Cheltenham, but he has the disadvantage of jumping to the right. Is he going to be way better than the opposition? 'Tis a fair chance he is. So, he's definitely a King George horse in the future. Probably a Gold Cup horse in time. He's got all them to come. So he's going to have to run in Cheltenham, and he will go off favourite, I'd say, as we get closer to the meeting. But I wouldn't mind being on him. And I mean, Mark Walsh, Willie'll have to run too, because Townend is not going to be able to ride Fact to File, so he'll have to ride Gaelic Warrior. So that's the reality. And it'd be an exciting race now. He'll definitely jump to the right again around Cheltenham. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, he'll definitely, even if he jumps straight for most of the race, he'll jump the third last, second last, and the last out to the right. So that could be his undoing, but he's a high class horse, absolute serious weapon now, and the way he jumps is fantastic. Yeah.
He's an absolute machine of a racehorse, but I can't help but think of the fact that he was beaten off a very low rating, George, in the Fred Winter by an inferior horse in Brazil. For all that, Brazil's a very good horse, but he's not on Gaelic Warrior's level. And in Perry Pass, very talented horse. Gaelic Warrior, arguably as good as him, if not better. And then Perry Pass dismissed him in last year's Ballymore. We can say last year now that we're into 2024. So once he's going left-handed, he's vulnerable. Going right-handed, different story entirely, though, George.
Well, it's borne out very easily in his statistics, including in 3 runs in France at Auteuil. He's run 11 times. He's won 6 races. 5 of those 6 races have been right-handed. The only time he's won left-handed was the Liffey handicap.
Handicap in the DRF.
4-3 was he off? Ridiculously low rating now to look at him. All of his defeats have been left-handed. Every single one. 3 at Auteuil, 2 at Cheltenham. It says its own thing, doesn't it? And it made him opposable to me last year at Cheltenham. And actually, I was shocked by how well he managed to run in spite of it. He's a very talented horse, but he's just giving too much away when he goes left-handed. The only thing, I wouldn't be necessarily 100% sure that he's definitely going to go Turners. Because I could see Facile, if it wasn't for this sort of Facile Vega perfect child sort of thing that Willie seems to have, where he seems like he's got a right to wrong with Marine Nationale. I think if it was any other horse, he'd be stepping him up and avoiding Marine Nationale, which then sort of goes, if you were going, well, Facile Vega is actually a point shorter for the Turners than he is for the Arkle, which then makes you, who's his Arkle horse? But then going even faster is surely going to make him jump even further to his right.
His Arkle horse won at Naas.
Blood Destiny?
Yeah, Blood Destiny, yeah.
That was
I remember Dennis was on the show very early last year talking about the juvenile hurdle down in Cork. And you were talking about taking on Blood Destiny and how you looked up, he's there in front of you. You look down, you're riding, jump a hurdle, you look up, he's gone. I'll never forget the way you described that. It was just this relentless gallop with this turn of foot that the horse has as well. He's a proper beast.
About 20 seconds after that race finished, I was so impressed with him. He was absolute magic. And I think actually, in the Triumph itself, I think he just sat too close to quite a hot pace. He looked quite revved up before. Lossymouth's is the only horse that's come from anywhere near the pace, and she was halfway back. It seems like he's on a retrieval mission. Like, he's a huge price for the Arkle, but he's a immensely talented horse who's done very little wrong. Like, I really can't see why he's as big a price as he is.
I could see Factifile dropping back as well. I could see him going back for the Arkle maybe.
That's what I mean.
Really?
If he could find a proper Arkle horse amongst those, I could see Facile Vega stepping up into the Turners.
I agree with you.
I think he should.
Yeah.
But it's just this thing that I feel like he might. I almost feel Willie's got this thing that he wants to take on Marie Nationale with him again. But then,
I think that's changed now. I have a funny feeling that's now changed, and they're going to go Turners with him now.
Because otherwise, he's just going to have too many going for the Arkle. Like, Ilete Tomps, to me, probably is going to be better at 2 than 2.5. Facile Vega.
Well, if Ilete Tomp had been in the race that we fancied him for, the Racing Post Novice Chase, and this is definitely me talking through my pocket, but I like Found a 50. I backed him. I think Ilete Tomp would have beaten him.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I really like him, and actually, at 10-1 for the Arkle, you could probably do a lot worse right now. Like, not to win.
Marie Nationale would have beaten him as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
On him, Dennis, how impressed were you with Barry Connell's Superstar?
He's super impressive. Super impressive now. He was actually, I think the time of that beginners was quicker than Found a 50's race as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
That beginner's chase, I thought he was very good. Jumping was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Safe. Doesn't take any chances. Real nimble. Exactly what he said. The only thing is, you just prefer if there was less chat about it, like that he's going to rock up and win. It's an Arkle at the end of the day, and it's hard there. Any race, if it was that easy, but it's very difficult, and everything will need to go right on the day. And super jumper. I was very impressed with him now. He was keen and he was fresh, but he was magnificent to watch. So, he's the horse to beat. He's the one to beat.
Yeah. And he is now best price 11 to 10 on, but it is good that all the talk that Barry Connell was saying beforehand, including on the Final Furlong podcast, is absolutely real. He's an exceptional jumper of a fence and super exciting going for the Irish Arkle. And of course, the Arkle itself. Can Willie unearth something? Mr. Policeman's going to be out this weekend in a novice chase. He's done well in the past with potential Arkle contenders. He's going to have to improve an awful lot, though. Blood Destiny. Didn't expect you to say Factifile dropping back in trip. I'd imagine it's going to be Turners for Factifile. He's very good. How good was Grange Clare West, though, Denis O'Regan?
I thought he was good.
Underwhelmed?
A little.
Not buying the hype?
No.
Any particular reason why? Do you think a couple of horses
No.
underperformed it behind?
Possibly. And he's jumped and won the race. He's hot and cold.
Yeah, well, he certainly was as a novice hurdler. This is the first time he's actually managed to scramble 2 runs back to back, George, and be able to go and do it. To be fair, Katie was all about Grange Clare West. She tried to get me to back him, but no, of course I had to be sticking to Favois de Chambeau, who I wouldn't give up on for the National Hunt Chase. But this was a really good performance from Grange Clare West. It's just as Dennis is quite underwhelmed by it, from a 6-length Grade 1 win in the Neville Hotel's Novice Chase. Hello, Carl. Hello, Trace. Hope you had a great day. There is the point to be made that, yeah, this is a Grade 1 because it's his second start over fences, but Factifile's race is basically a Grade 1 as well. It's just not a Grade 1 in name. But it is, to my eyes, very, very likable performance from Grange Clare West. But would you be similarly underwhelmed with a view to the Cheltenham Festival with him?
No, I'm a big fan of Grange Clare West, and the sort of view I've taken with him this season as to why, what I said on here before when he won it on his chase debut, why I think he's actually going to be able to sort of maintain his form now is he's just turned 8 yesterday now. And like he's by presenting, he could just well have been a big empty horse before who's just maybe struggled between his races. Do you know what I mean? And I think he looks like he's strengthened up now. Like he's filled out a little bit, strengthened up. I think he might be able to find a bit of consistency now in his racing. And so I really like him. Like, he stays, but he's clearly got high cruising speed. He jumps brilliantly. And if you actually look down the betting for the Brown Advisory, it's not the best race. Like, there's a lot of horses that look at home in the National Hunt Chasing there, like Stay Away Faye, like Corbett's Cross, like Broadway Boy, even Monty Star, like probably going to want further than that in time. If Hermes Allen went there, he might be his biggest danger, to be honest. But
I fancy Corbett's Cross now.
I think you can turn it around?
I think so.
He's just never caught my imagination, Corbett's Cross. I couldn't tell you why. It's not really based on anything. If anything, it's probably he left a bad taste in the mouth when he ran out at Cheltenham, but he looking at the weight.
But he won a beginner's chase in Fairyhouse before Christmas, and it was a grade 1, just not in name. It was absolutely. He beat 3-Card Bragg and Monty Star. Monty Star, I'd say, is a really good horse of Henry de Bromwich. Bolted up in Punchestown the other day. That Corbett's Cross
and Nick Rocket
as a series horse, and Nick Rocket. Yeah, I think and good ground, nice ground. I could Corbett's Cross. I think he'd be a nice one for Cheltenham.
I know you're under pressure for time, Dennis. So if there was one horse that you could take from Christmas going forward, who would it be?
Back to File.
Love that. That's music to my ears. Dennis, we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks' time on the Final Corner podcast. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year to you, my friend. I hope the back heals up soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Emma. Thanks, George, and Happy New Year, guys.